everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I'm going to be doing a quick recommendation video on one of my favorite tropes. I have a lot of recommendations for this, and so hopefully there'll be a couple more videos coming, but that is Captor Captive. I tend to read a lot of Captor Captive because I love Mafia romance and dark romance. So a lot of these are going to be more of the Mafia and dark romance category, so just be aware of that. These aren't too dark, honestly, because I don't, to me at least, dark romance can be subjective, so it does depend on your level of dark romance, but I think these are all pretty good intros into that world. But anyways, let me just go ahead and dive in. I think I'm just going to do about 6 of my favorites for this one, and hopefully another one coming soon because I have a lot of them. Okay, so for the first one that I want to bring up is Run, Posey Run. This is a really quick book, so I think it's like 200 and something pages. So it's a really quick book to read, and it's definitely got a Captor Captive, psychopath hero in this. So I think it's a pretty fun, and it's a lot more interesting than you would kind of think going in. I always find psychopath romances to be really fascinating to think about how their mind works. And in this, we have a psychopath. He's in the Mafia. He more runs like the money side of the Mafia, but he is definitely in there. And he has had this long-term girlfriend. And she basically is kind of like a kept woman. She's fine with the way their romance is. He's not fully emotionally invested or anything. But what ends up happening is he gets a sex tape video that's marked as like a current date, like while they've been together, of her with another man. This ends up being a video from like when she was in high school or something, and they doctored it, and they basically sent it to him to send him into a rage and accuse her of cheating. And he does, and he doesn't listen to anything she has to say, and basically throws her out. And he sends her with his driver, and is basically like, get out of here, you're done, you're gone. And the driver warns her, like, you need to go into hiding because you're with a Mafia man. They're not going to be happy that he just ended things with you and that you know things. So they're going to come after you. So she basically goes into hiding, and she does like sex cam kind of job. So she's off doing that. She ended up sending him something to just kind of rub it in his face. And then he starts to, because he realizes that he was wrong and that she didn't cheat on him. And so he tries to get her back. She wants nothing to do with him anymore. She did a lot of, and that's what I loved about this book, was she did a lot of self-reflection, realizing she never asked for what she's worth. She always just settled and kind of took being like the kept woman. He wouldn't buy her gifts, like it'd be his assistant, you know, really the things that he was doing wasn't what she needs. And so he ends up finding her, tracking her down, and taking her. And he forcibly captures her and takes her back home and tries to woo her back. He doesn't understand why she wants all these things that you want in a relationship, because he doesn't get those things as a psychopath. And he's like, well, you never cared before, so why do you care now? And so now she's standing up for herself and fighting for herself and what she wants. So it's really interesting to watch him fall for her and to kind of try and change his ways and become a better man. And I really liked this because he does full on just go capture her ass and bring her back home. So it's not too heavy on the Captor Captive, but it's kind of a Captor Captive. So I really loved this. I think it's such a great book, and it's a really quick read. So I would definitely recommend this. So the next one I have to recommend is a big favorite. I think it's one of everybody's favorite out of the series, and that is Carnal Urges by J.T. Geissinger. This is a Captor Captive. It honestly starts off right away. I think it even ended in the end of the last book, in the first book of the series. So we have Sloane, who is the best friend to the heroine from the first book. And she's just a character. She's feisty. She kind of uses men. She just never in a really long-term relationship. She goes from men to men. And she is just this badass chick that everybody just gets wrapped around her finger. And she ended up being with, like, dating one of these mafia guys that ended up leading to a shootout in the first book. And so that ended up kind of building this war, this mafia war. And so Declan is in the Irish mafia. And he is not the boss right now. But his boss basically tasks him with kidnapping Sloan. So he kidnaps her and takes her on. But what ends up happening is his boss dies. And so now he's the head of the mafia. And he could really care less about having this chick. But now he's got to figure out what to do with her. And Sloan is just so badass. She's not scared. She's got banter. She's makes all his men fall for her and like are wrapped around her little finger. And Declan is so alpha and just, he's so awesome. So this book is so great. I kind of want to reread it now that I'm talking about it. Sloan is one of like the best heroines I think ever written. And I think there's lots of Sloans that are badasses in books. But this turns into a captor captive where he kind of just tries to get rid of her at one point, but then he changes his mind, and that scene is so hot and funny and just classic. He literally, like, I think it's a bazooka or something, and is like going to shoot them down unless he gets Sloan back. So I absolutely love this. This series is so great. The Monsters and Queens, or is it Queens and Monsters? I think it's Queens and Monsters. Anyways, I think this is Queens and Monsters. I'm not sure. But this is such a great book, such a great captor captive. Would definitely recommend this one. And I just realized something. All my books are mafia romances in this video. So I guess this could be a mafia romance video too. But technically this is captor captive. But I just realized that's the books that I picked out. So the next book that I have actually has a badass Sloan in it too. And this is Ivan from Sophie Lark. I love Sophie Lark so much. She's one of my favorite authors. She writes just such like easy to read, sucks you in, hot, amazing badass heroines. Like she writes really great heroines. And in this you have Ivan and Sloan. And Ivan is in the Russian mafia, and Sloan has basically been trained to be an assassin. Her father was, I believe, like CIA or something. It's been a while since I've read this. But he he trained her, so he trained her pretty, and he was a paranoid kind of crazy dad. So she's been heavily trained, and she's an assassin for hire, and she gets a big job to kill Ivan. Now, it's a lot of money because they can't touch him. He lives in this pretty big secluded area where it's really hard to get to. Like, nobody can get to him. And so Sloan's pretty genius. She manages to get in. She almost kills him while he's asleep. She's got, like, poison, in a needle or whatever. In a syringe, I mean. And so she's about to get him, and he opens his eyes and fights back. And he's pretty shocked when he realizes the person that got the closest to kill him is a woman, and a beautiful woman at that. So he takes her and he puts her downstairs in like a cell and basically kind of like torture with orgasms. I don't know. He gives it to her pretty good. This is pretty short too. I wish it was longer, honestly. These were kind of earlier books for Sophie, I think. But I wish it was longer. But I love Ivan. Him and Sloan are like such a dynamic couple. But he basically captures her and messes with her sexually. And she's in it. And she escapes, though, because she's that badass. But she ends up like coming back for him. And they just have a great romance. And they come into like later stuff, too. So I absolutely love this book. It's such a great captor captive. The next book that I have is Mafia, Madman by Mia Finelli, which, if you don't know, this is Joanna Shupe. So if you love Joanna Shupe's historical romances, this is definitely a lot crazier. wild ride that she does as Mia Finelli, but I absolutely love this. This is actually a third book in a series of, there was the Mafia Mistress, Mafia Darling duet, and then this is the third book. So things that happened in this, I believe it's Enzo. Yeah. So what happened in that duet was Enzo was actually captured by Fausto and he was tortured badly. So they were enemies. He was held captive for a long time and tortured. And now he's kind of on the run where he can't even be with his family because he's, you know, Fausto will come for them and he has his family in hiding and he's like off in a yacht at all times to be like kind of, you know, hidden. And he's pretty pissed off. He wants revenge. Doesn't know how he's going to get it until he goes to this one fashion show and Gia happens to have to do the runway. She's trying to be a designer, but they were down a model, so she ends up walking. And he sees her, and he recognizes her because she actually snuck down to the cells in like the previous book to see what was going on down there and saw him. So he recognized her. He knew he was this, like Fausto's, you know, wife's sister, and he captures her. So he kidnaps her, makes it look like she got killed in like this restaurant so that nobody would be looking for her. And he takes her out on his yacht. He has a built little cage for her inside there. And he makes her take off all her clothes and be in there naked because he was naked when she saw him. And so he wanted to humiliate her. And so he's just fucking with her. And she's so funny and badass. Like she starts doing like naked yoga in there and he gets mad because he doesn't want the other men to see her like that, and they end up just having this insane chemistry, and so they start to have like this sexual connection while they're out on this yacht. So it's really hot. He's very alpha. There's a lot of the Mafia stuff going on in this, and I just really loved it. I'm really excited. I haven't read the next one yet, which is Fausto's son, because Enzo ends up like sending somebody to go kill Fausto's son. So I'm going to be interested to see how it happens in that one. And it's a male-male romance, so I can't wait. So definitely love this for a Captor captive. So the next book I have is another Sophie Lark. I can't help it. I have multiple of her. But that is Stolen Heir. This is book number 2 in the Brutal Birthright series. So I would recommend reading the first one first. Obviously, you should read them all in order. But anyways, this is a Captor captive. We have Miko, who is sexy as fuck. And he's the Polish Mafia. He ends up kind of taking over for his boss because in the previous book they killed the Gallows and Griffins basically came together and they ended up killing his boss, and so he's very angry. He was kind of like a father to him, and he helped, you know, he has a lot of anger for what happened to him when he was a child and this guy took him in, so he wants revenge. So he kidnaps Nessa, which is one of the daughters of the Griffins. And she's very detached from the Mafia lifestyle. She's a ballerina. She does choreography and all that kind of stuff. So she's very like secluded and sheltered when it comes to the Mafia lifestyle. And he kidnaps her without letting them know he does it. And he watches them freak out. Like he wants to watch them panic. Who came after her? Where is she? He watches them basically like deteriorating and like losing it. And he takes her back to his mansion. It's kind of like this spooky kind of, you know, it reminds you, it is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so it does remind you of like that kind of gothic kind of mansion. And he takes Nessa back there and holds her captive. He doesn't want to do anything like bad to her or whatever, but he will do what he needs to do. He doesn't want to fall for her, and they do start really connecting. And Nessa starts to like do her own ballerina while she's a captive there. And she just kind of melts his heart. And, you know, they fall for each other so hard. They're like one of my favorite couples. But it's amazing. Like, I think Miko is so badass and I love him. So the last book that I have is big favorite of everybody's. It's a perfect captor-captive romance, and that is Twisted Pride by Cora Reily. If you haven't read the Cora Chronicles, I highly recommend it. This is book number 3. They should be read in order, but Ramo's book is really amazing. I mean, Nino Falcone is always my top book boyfriend because Ramo's pretty crazy, but this is still a great romance. Ramo Falcone is the head of the Cora, and he is crazy, psychopath, out of control. Like the Cora don't really run things the way that like the traditional mafia does in New York. They're kind of out there. He does his own like underground like fighting. Like he'll get in there and fight people brutally. You don't really see that from like a crime boss, but from stuff that's happening with the war that he has going on with the Chicago outfit, they were attacked by them, and he wants revenge. So he comes up with the plan, not with Nino's permission. Nino does not want this to happen because he has a cooler head. And he kidnaps Dante's niece, I believe she's the niece, Serafina. Yeah, she's the niece of the boss of the outfit. And so he kidnaps her like on her wedding day. She's about to get married and everything. And he takes her back to Vegas, holds her in this prison cell downstairs, and basically like fucks with her mind, tries a little torture stuff, sexual stuff, and they end up falling for each other. And nobody would ever think Ramo would fall in love, but he falls hard. He's so crazy. I love the Cora Chronicles, honestly. Like, they're great, especially this and like Nino Falcone. I love Nino and Ramo's relationship, and just how Nino always tries to rein Ramo in. But this leads to escalations with the Mafia wars and a lot of, you know, fallout because Ramo did this. And then you wonder, how is he going to be able to keep her? What are they going to do? So it's beautiful because I do love how Ramo falls hard, and he's a touch her and you die, and he loves Serafina, and she's very strong and capable, and they're just a perfect match together. So I would definitely recommend this one. So those are the captive ones I have for today. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite captive is. I mean, I already have like quite a bit more that I could do for another video. So hopefully I'll get to that soon. Thank you so much for watching. If you can, please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.